Welcome back. Now that we have a nice centered hockey puck, let's start making this thing look like a bowl. First, we'll open the clay. Make sure your hands are covered with a layer of wet slip. There's a few different ways to go about this next part. You can use 2 thumbs or 2 pointer fingers or one of each. But we all start the same way, with your fingers in contact with the sides of the hockey puck. Next, rest your thumbs or pointer fingers into the top center of the clay. We're going to be leaning those top digits into the center of the clay. We're not pushing down like a drill. So remember, the correct motion is a lean. Okay, let's give it a shot. Fingers in contact with the sides, thumbs or pointers in the middle, and we slowly lean those fingers down into the center. Your outside fingers can push in just a little bit to take care of any slight wobble that might start to happen. The pressure you use with your fingers should be firm. Floppy fingers will cause a floppy form. Once you have a pretty good opening, release slowly to keep your form on center. The next step is to widen the opening. We're going to be pulling from the very center toward your body. First, lock your elbows in place. Then, place your thumbs or fingers at the very center, lowest point of your bowl. Firmly and slowly pull toward yourself. Once you have that opening a little wider, it's time to release your hands nice and slowly so you don't throw it off center. Next, let's make sure the middle is nice and flat. I press down with a finger and I support that finger with my other hand. I move from the center out toward the walls, trying to create a smooth, bump-free surface. At times, I'll press out from the inside and in from the outside simultaneously. My goal here is to make both the interior and exterior walls as smooth and even as possible by applying equal pressure. And I always let go nice and slow. Now that we have the clay open, we can reduce the speed of the wheel. When pulling up the walls, I like the speed of the wheel to be around 1/3 of what I use for centering. This tends to be more manageable and easier to control. Okay, let's pull these walls up. Make sure your hands are covered in a layer of wet slip. When pulling up the walls, we do not want loose fingers. Make sure your fingers are nice and strong, pressed together. You want both hands to be on the same wall, one on the interior and one on the exterior. At the lowest point of the clay, you want to press out with your inside hand and press in with your outside hand. You're going to lock that pinch in place and then slowly move that pinch up. Let's see how it looks when used on the clay. I'm now pushing in at the lowest point of the outside and pushing out on the lowest point of the inside. I haven't moved my hands up at all, and yet you'll notice that the bowl is already a little bit taller, and you can see the indentation from where I pressed my hands together. This is because the clay can't go through the bat and it can't go through my hands, so it's got no place to go but up. Now, if I once again lock my fingers in that same position, I'm creating a certain thickness between my two hands. As I move those hands up, the rest of the wall will become that same thickness. Your hands are strong and the clay is soft, so it has to imitate the shape of your hands. That's why it's so important that you lock those fingers in place. As the clay spins, you're forcing it into a consistent thickness and an even surface. Continue to repeat this process of pushing out from the inside and in from the outside at the lowest points and slowly pulling up to get those walls taller until you feel satisfied with their height. Once you're happy with the height of the walls, let's clean up a little bit more of that clay skirt. You can either use a potter's rib or you can just use your finger like I have here. This will make it easier to cut the bowl off the wheel and also easier to trim. As a final step, take your sponge and wring out most of the water. Do not wring it out inside the bowl. With light pressure, lay the sponge on the interior of the bowl. Just hold the sponge in one spot. You do not need to wipe the sponge around the bowl. The spinning of the bowl ensures you're touching all of the surfaces. Do the same for the outside of the bowl and the rim. As a final step, we'll clean out the rim with a small yellow sham. Make sure we soak this in water and then wring it out. If you don't have a sham, you can also use a rolled up piece of paper towel. Stretch your sham or paper towel over the rim of the bowl. A light pull downward with both hands will ensure that any excess slip is cleaned off that rim, leaving you with a smooth, satisfying edge. Finally, we can stop our wheel. Take a wire tool and drag it underneath your bowl. I like to leave this pottery to dry overnight on the bat, and then I'll come back the next day to do my trimming. So stop back to learn about how to trim once your bowl has become leather hard. Before you go, hit that like button and remember to subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for stopping in. Me, I am just an art teacher. Have a day.